I'm the only politician or former politician you'll ever talk to who supported gay marriage and said they have every right to be just as miserable as the rest of us, and also supported prayer in school, where I said, what's wrong with a kid believing in something? You won't find a politician who supports both of those. I mean, they took the 10 Commandments out of the public schools in Texas. I want them back in, call them the 10 Suggestions.
Back in the 1970s, he formed a band that offended almost everyone, Kinky Friedman and the Texas Jewboys. He's written over 17 novels and a book of Texas etiquette. He ran for governor of the state and he pulled in 12% of the vote. He has his own brand of cigars and tequila, and he runs a summer camp for kids with cancer, as well as a shelter for abused and abandoned dogs. We caught up with iconic Kinky Friedman at his ranch outside Medina, Texas.
Do I have this right that when you were a kid, you were a chess whiz?
Correct.
Yeah?
When I was about ages 7 to 9, right around there, in 1952, I played the Grandmaster of the World, Samuel Reshevsky, in Houston, Texas. And he played 50 people simultaneously, and he beat all of us. But I did better than a lot of the adults. And he told my father afterwards he's very sorry to have to beat his kid. But he can't take a chance like that. If he loses to a 7-year-old, it's headlines. His career is over. So I was a child chess prodigy, and it's been downhill from there.
Well, see, I asked you that because I know that you had said once that you'd come from an upper middle class background, and that was a horrible cross to bear for somebody who wanted to be a country singer.
Right.
Yeah. How much of a cross to bear has it been for you?
It's been tough, and I read, Glenn Campbell was an Arkansas dirt farmer, Johnny Cash, so forth. Their backgrounds are conducive to being country stars. And not only was my background not conducive to that, but I use the word conducive, and most country singers don't. And I've always been ambivalent about performing.
There's another one.
Anyone who uses the word ambivalent should never have been a country singer in the first place. I mean, that's pretty clear.
Tell me about Jack Ruby. I was really intrigued by this to read that how you feel about Jack Ruby and how Jack Ruby was, in a way, responsible for the creation of your first band. Well, not your first band, your second band.
Yeah, Jack Ruby was a real Texas Jew boy. He kind of really jumped into the whole cowboy thing, and I've always believed that cowboys and Jews, the only thing they really have in common is they both like to wear their hats indoors, and they attach a certain amount of importance to this. There's many great people who wore their hats indoors. A lot of people give me grief for a lot of things, smoking or wearing my hat indoors. But Hank Williams did, Davy Crockett did, Sam Houston did. And it's not a bad thing to do.
All right, so tell me a little bit about Jack Ruby.
There's two kinds of people who wear cowboy hats anyway, cowboys and assholes.
Okay.
Or as we say in Australia, assholes.
So now there are two of us standing here with hats on, and mine's not a cowboy hat. What are you calling me?
Undecided.
All right. All right.
It is summertime. It's pretty hard. It's pretty hardcore to wear a black hat in the summer.
It is. That's very hardcore. Yeah. But tell me a little bit more about Jack Ruby, though, because you've written about what he did, his killing of Oswald, and how you thought this was he's for good reasons.
Very supportive of Jack Ruby. One, he really was a Texas Jew boy, and two, I like JFK. JFK was an inspirational president, unlike the one we have now. In fact, unlike any politician in America today. So JFK is the reason I joined the Peace Corps, and millions of other people of my generation were inspired. The inspirational factor can't be underestimated. Winston Churchill had it. Our Governor Ann Richards had it. FDR had it. And it means an identification with everybody. You can want to call it the common man. You want to say a man of the people. And when you look at JFK, FDR, and Churchill, you see three aristocrats who really loved people, loved the common man. They were president for all the people. And the common man loved them.
One of my favorite bands from back in the day was Commander Cody and his Lost Planet Airmen. these guys were responsible for giving you a break, weren't
Yeah,
they? Getting
yeah.
you into the recording business.
Yes, Commander Cody did.
Yeah.
Knew the guys at Vanguard Records, the label who passed on Bob Dylan. And Bob really wanted to record with them, and they just didn't think he had it. But yeah, they were fine. That's where we started with the song Sold American. A song that has, over the years, it's a story of the life of a star, and what happens to him, and the price of fame.
Yeah.
And of course, as Hemingway said, fame is death's little sister. Sold American has come to mean many things.
It was interesting, I was reading some stuff from back in the early 70s that were written about you then, and the fact that there was some concern that because of the material that you and the Texas Jewboys were singing, and you were taking it to record labels that were run by Jewish guys,
Right.
that there wasn't going to be a chance in hell that you would ever get recorded. And it turned out to be the exact opposite, didn't it?
Well, I wasn't as lucky as some others. I don't know where Whoopi Goldberg got her name. Has anybody asked her? Do you know?
Haven't got a clue.
Yeah. Did she just take it as a clever way to kind of twist the knife on the Jews and get publicity with a funky name? Or was a Jewish family named Goldberg that adopted her as a young child? I mean, I don't know. I doubt it. But she didn't seem to have any problems with it. We did. We had, I think we were turned down by a whole bunch of record companies just for Kinky Friedman and the Texas Jewboys, which was a name that really fitted the group. It was a group that was either Jewish or Jewish by inspiration, and we were a country band with a social conscience. That was our big problem.
Right.
And I find today, and I think Australia is a perfect petri dish to see how after 30 years or so, or more, the songs are older than many of the people that hear them, how the songs hold up. And based on this last tour, which was sold out, my two favorite words in the English language, sold out, I found that the audience is singing along on Get Your Biscuits in the Oven, Your Buns in the Bed. Old Ben Lucas Had a Lot of Mucus, which I wrote when I was just 11 years old. They Ain't Making Jews Like Jesus Anymore. Now this is an important song, and I explained to the folks. The song has a lot of ethnic slurs in it because it's a redneck, this bigot comes into a bar and starts spouting off. And actually, I stand up to the guy. The guy is against just about everything you can think of, especially Aristotleonesius, the Greek. But we have that. We have a tsunami of political correctness has washed across our country. And I was talking to the Aussies about it from the stage and telling them, if Richard Pryor, a young Richard Pryor walks in today, what are we going to do with him?
Yeah.
Can we make him a mainstream success today? No. George Carlin, Lenny Bruce, Mel Brooks? No. Could we make the movie Blazing Saddles in America today? No. So it looks like we've taken a cultural step backwards because of hypocrites and scoundrels like Al Sharpton. We have the N-word. We have the phrase the N-word, which is really obscene. If the song is about a bigot who uses the word nigger, that word should be in there. And as Lenny Bruce rightfully said, that's how you reduce the pain of the word. It works the same as the Texas Jewboys. The Texas Jewboys insulted certain Jewish people. Most of them, and all of the young people, I believe, understood it as kind of a badge of honor. They see They Ain't Making Jews Like Jesus Anymore as an anthem against bigotry, which it rightfully is. You can't explain that to the mainstream very easily. So in politics, my opponents take the word nigger out of that song. They cherry pick it, and they say, this guy's a racist. Well, they couldn't be more wrong. This is a guy that's been skewering racism for 40 years. That's what I do.
I think of Randy Newman's lyrics. Very similar sorts of things
Wouldn't know.
in what he puts in.
Yeah, wouldn't know.
All right, let me talk to you about your relationship with certain presidents, because you've had some relationship with certain presidents, starting with George W. Bush.
Not sexual yet.
Well, okay.
But
I wasn't going to ask.
I slept under two presidents at the White House, yes.
There you go.
The man who did that.
How did the George Bush connection come about? I thought that was an interesting story.
Through Laura.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been friends with Laura, who's a librarian. And you can't meet a bad librarian. And the evidence that Fidel Castro is a bastard is that he's been arresting librarians for 40 years. This man who everybody thought was going to be a hero. He spent his time arresting librarians. So Laura and I were close, and I got to meet George, and I found him to be just the opposite of what the media says. I found him to be fast and funny, and he's been a real friend to Israel. And as a fellow Red Sea pedestrian, I, of course, support Israel. And Obama's popularity there is now at 6%, where it belongs, because those people know. They know what he really feels. And so I think Bush was not only a friend of Israel, he did more to fight AIDS in Africa than anybody else that came along. And he was right on the Arab Spring, on what's going on there now. Now whether he was right in Iraq or not, all that remains to be seen, but I don't see any improvement from Obama on that. And not to pick on Obama especially, it's just that I don't see any inspirational factor there, which was the hope. That's the one thing he might have been able to do, which he hasn't. He seems more like Jimmy Carter or Eisenhower or somebody. He would just like to be in Martha's Vineyard playing golf, and he certainly doesn't have the chops to be a man of the people. That's why one reason he hates church.
Do you think Bush did?
Bush had more than that.
Yeah. But Clinton?
Clinton definitely did.
Yeah.
Sure, Bill did. Bill,
and you were friends with him too.
Yeah. Bill led with his heart all the time. He was very spontaneous, and he plus very, very bright. He really was, the guy who was raised in poverty by a single mother. Not Obama. That happened to Obama, but really he was in prep school early on.
You gave Clinton a cigar, a Cohiba.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you tell him when you gave it to him?
I told him, remember, Mr. President, I'm giving you a Cuban cigar, but we're not supporting their economy, we're burning their fields. And that was, somebody told me that was a couple days before the Monica
there you go.
Lewinsky thing broke. But it would stand to reason that Bill would get into situations like that just because he is pretty real. The Slick Willie thing couldn't be more wrong. I mean, you're really dealing with a human being here, and like Jesse Ventura, good men, good people don't often make good politicians. The kind of people who become politicians are people who were hall monitors when they were growing up.
But you want to become a politician.
Well, I did, past tense.
You don't anymore?
No, the Lord has bigger things in mind for the Kingster than politics.
Oh, really? I see.
And my definition of politics, poly meaning more than one, and ticks are blood-sucking parasites.
But why did you want to be a politician to begin with then?
Because I want to do some good for Texas. I looked at our state. We're the 7th largest economy in the world. We might be the 7th or 8th largest economy in the world, I don't know today. 49th in education, and 50th in health care coverage for children. I mean, what's wrong with the picture? And what's really bad is the Crips and the Bloods are telling the politicians what to do. So I'm the only politician, or former politician, you'll ever talk to who supported gay marriage and said they have every right to be just as miserable as the rest of us, and also supported prayer in school, where I said, what's wrong with a kid believing in something? You won't find a politician who supports both of those. I mean, they took the 10 Commandments out of the public schools in Texas. I want them back in, call them the 10 Suggestions or something.
It was interesting, that campaign that you ran for governor, it struck me that you were getting pissed off as you went along, that people weren't taking you as seriously as you wanted to be taken. Is that true?
Crowd, well, yeah, I've learned since then that the crowd always picks Barabbas. They say, kill Jesus, free Barabbas. Now, not to compare myself to Jesus, except we both were kind of skinny Jewish guys who traveled around the countryside irritating people, and we never really had a job or a home or a wife or anything like that. But the crowd did pick Barabbas, and they have ever since. It's been downhill since then. Barabbas has been gone for a couple thousand years. He doesn't call, he doesn't write, he's never saved a soul, never won a football game. And Jesus and Moses were good Jewish boys who got in a little trouble with the government. And it is depressing after a while to see the kind of people that we're electing. Yes, I would say.
You sent a letter, well, it was an open letter because I guess it was probably in your Texas Monthly column, to Obama in 2009, where you basically said, I corresponded with a couple other presidents and I'm hoping this will begin a correspondence with you. Never happened, I'm thinking, right? You never heard from him?
Like Barabbas, I have not heard from
Okay.
Obama. Yeah, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. I see Obama as very similar to the other politicians, like Rick Perry, the governor of Texas. They disagree on almost every policy, but you can watch Obama and watch Perry, and you can see that they're both perpetually behind the curve. Look at Libya. See, I only care about two things, Libya and Charlie Sheen. Those are my two areas of interest.
All right.
And in Libya, you see that we're chasing some madman around in the desert right now, when the real game is in Syria, who is Iran's best friend, who supports Hamas and Hezbollah and all the trouble in the Middle East, and has a bloodthirsty, cowardly leader killing his own people. But we're giving them a pass so we can go after this madman. Now, if we happen to accidentally kill Gaddafi, then Obama's ready with a press conference. But he's totally behind the curve, as he has been on virtually everything. That's where he tries to. That's where a good politician always is. So when I say that musicians can better run this country than politicians, I'm not kidding. We won't get a hell of a lot done in the morning, but we'll work light and we'll be honest.
Now, if they had any sense, they could send Charlie Sheen into Libya, and it'd be over in a couple of days.
Well, that would really pique my interest if that were to happen. At this point, I would probably vote for Charlie Sheen over Obama. You see, a president should have what Churchill had, where here we're talking about an adult butterfly collector. We're talking about a guy who played polo as a young man in India. This was not your man of the people, who became one. And when he was prime minister, he represented everybody. And I think Obama, we just have more government by ego, foreign policy by ego, and I think they're all the same. I mean, I'm not singling him out, because I think I can't think of a politician in this country that inspires me. Now, can you think of one in Canada that inspires you? A living one. Who inspires you?
Absolutely not.
They're just not there anymore.
I read a line recently in a novel I was reading by Barbara Kingsolver. The line was talking about Democrats and Republicans, and they were referred to as a watery broth.
Yeah.
I thought that was exactly it.
I think they're the same guy admiring himself in the mirror, and they're very disappointing. I really do think of course, part of the reason that I lost was that 26% of the people voted in Texas.
Yeah, that's
and
unbelievable.
An independent just can't win a race like that.
Yeah.
And it's all about money.
And voter turnout is like that almost everywhere now. Down.
Yeah, and it should be, because people are asking themselves, where do I go to give up? And every time you see an Anthony Weiner scandal, you just say, well, there you go. And all that breeds more apathy.
Yeah. I want to take you in a different direction. You were talking about Australia, because you just finished a tour of Australia. You wrote about taking your father to Australia with a couple other guys. And of all the things of yours that I've read and the music of yours that I've listened to and everything, there was a line in that piece that you wrote about that trip was the thing that stuck in my head. And the line was this. You said, time is the money of love, which I thought was a great line. You're talking about spending time with your father. Tell me a little bit about that, because one gets the feeling that underneath this kinky exterior, the guy who is responsible for this animal shelter that we're standing in the middle of now, in that camp for kids with cancer over there across the river and all that stuff, is a different guy than the guy that's standing here playing to the cameras. Is that true?
Well, I've always cared about animals. Utopia Animal Rescue Ranch is something that we put together. Cousin Nancy and her husband Tony run the place, and the three of us founded it. And we've rescued thousands of dogs now over 13 years. And we've got these beautiful open-air pens, and we adopt them out. And I always say money may buy you a fine dog, but only love can make him wag his tail.
We're getting a shot of Cousin Nancy over there.
Yeah, and well, Nancy is opening the gates of heaven a little bit wider. She really is doing something, and it has a ripple effect. Thousands of people are in contact with Nancy, or checking up on what's going on here. And she really is doing something for animals, because the fact that we're killing millions of them every year in various ways, and some of them just dogs and cats, millions of them, is a real stain on our whole society. And we in America, we got a lot of problems, not the least of which is that the culture appears to be out of sync. And I noticed that playing for Australian audiences. When you say something funny that's a little off, maybe, well, I can give you lots of examples of that, but the Australian audience laughs.
Right.
They laugh when something's funny. American audiences look around first. We're not sure.
To see who's laughing?
Yeah, to see who's laughing. We cry at the wrong times. We laugh at the wrong times. We're out of sync. We're like autistic children who, when somebody falls down on the street, they laugh. You know, they don't know they're not supposed to laugh when somebody falls down and hurts themselves. So that's a problem that America has to deal with. You know, I offer the song, "They Ain't Making Jews Like Jesus Anymore." I think it's my job now. I benched that song for about a decade because of the N-word, because the song was misunderstood. Now, I've brought it back out again big time, and I've noticed that it plays very, very well, and people understand it, not just in Australia, but in America too. So I am happy to be one of the few nails that hasn't been hammered down yet in this country.
All right, let me ask you then. We got a few minutes left here. Let me ask you about the state of music and what you think of it now, because I know we were talking before we started shooting here that you'd played one of Levon Helm's Midnight Rambles in Woodstock, New York. I had gone there about a year and a half ago and had one of the times of my life, and that's saying something. But to your mind, the state of current music, not just country music, but music in general, is what?
Well, as Billy Bob Thornton says, if you tell the truth, you get into trouble. So the thing that people are supposed to say is, oh, there's so much young talent coming up, these brilliant songwriters are coming along. It just is not true, folks. It isn't true. The audience has become the show. And if you want to be inspired, if you really want to see entertainment, to be entertained really, go see a geezer. I tell people, do this. Go see Levon Helm. Go see Bob Dylan, Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Chris Christopherson, Billy Joe Shaver. See a man in his 70s. You'll come away saying, wow, I've seen something. I've seen real raw talent. I've seen somebody that has sparkle, that has it all. You'll come away inspired. Now, you can't do that with a young group. I mean, if you go see any young bands that are, you know, some of them are doing well, some are not, but they're all derivative. There was a time in country music in Nashville when in the same little town, writing songs were Chris Christopherson, Shel Silverstein, Roger Miller, and Willie Nelson. All four of them were drunk, cross-addicted to everything on the planet, broke, miserable, and writing the greatest songs maybe of all time for country music, for our culture. Brilliant songs, four guys. And there were many others, of course, but just take these four. Today, what do you have? You got a corporate whorehouse run by the publishing industry, where guys like you and me and another guy, the camera crew here, we can all say, oh, we have a 4:45 songwriting appointment, and we all show up to write this in a room. And in the next room, there's 3 or 4 other guys doing it, and all the way down the hall. And what have they produced? I mean, I'm trying to think of a song that's very original, and about the only thing I can think of. In fact, the only song written recently that I think has any originality is Billy Bob's song, Hey Me, I'm Talking to You, which is going to be a book that we're working on. But,
oh, well, cool. Speaking of cross-promotion.
Yeah. But Hey Me, I'm Talking to You struck me immediately as, well, there's a genius title.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a title like that or a line like that in years come out of Nashville. So the same thing we see in politics, we see in country music.
So how do you explain that, though? I mean, it's not just the corporate culture. There still have to be guys out there who are feeling the stuff and writing the stuff. Are they just not being heard? They're just being poverty-stricken.
They haven't changed. There still are talented. Let me get it straight. There's talented songwriters right here in Texas.
Okay.
There's talented songwriters in Canada. It is that we have changed. The culture has a bad case. Not only, it's got ADHD terribly. I would say the internet, which of course I don't use, the technology.
I know. I tried to send you an email.
Well, okay. Well, Bob Dylan keeps retooling the same song for 50 years, changing keeping the lyric but changing the melodies and all. That's what I've done now to make things more accessible to the modern generation. For instance, my old song I've retitled. Now it's "Waitress, Please Waitress, Come Sit on My Facebook." But basically, I would say, blame the internet if you're going to blame something. The internet does some great stuff, okay? We are now making my old books available as e-books. and as audiobooks read by me, which is something if you want to read something you wrote 25 years ago without slashing your wrist. But that's all available on kinkyfriedman.com, or you go to Amazon and get this stuff. That's good. That's the David and Goliath part, because it cuts out the chain bookstores, it cuts out the big publishers. That's the good side of the internet.
Yeah.
The bad side, though, is really there, which is, let's say you're a 57-year-old pedophile in New Jersey pretending to be a 27-year-old surfer in San Diego. You contact a 15-year-old girl in Montana who really is a middle-aged vice cop in Miami. That's the internet, pretty much. That's the internet, and let me not be misconstrued for any Canadian viewers. I despise pedophiles as much as anybody, but you do have to admit they always do slow down in school zones. That went over very well in Australia, by the way.
I bet it did. You have a quote in one of your books, and I can't remember who this is from. You're talking about a guy who was a songwriter, who wanted to be a songwriter, wanted to be a musician. He said to his mother,
Oh yeah,
Mom, when I grow up,
Johnny Gimble.
When I grow up, I want to be a musician. And she said, make up your mind. You can't do both.
You can't do both. You can't grow up and be a musician. So it's a wonderful thing to be a musician. I'm just saying I don't think it's there. I mean, I don't think we will see any more stars.
Yeah.
You'll see Lady Gagas, which are products. They become products like that. That's not a star. Justin Bieber's not a star. He's a product. And I just don't, I'm looking all over Australia. I said, Jesus, is there a young Janis Joplin out here in one of these little towns, maybe somebody? Well, there's lots of girls who can sing like Janis, you know?
Yeah.
But there's not a Janis Joplin coming up. There's not a Jimi Hendrix. There's not a Gary Cooper or a John Wayne, any place.
Yeah.
And so I really, it's not that the young generation doesn't have talent. That doesn't make sense. What it is,
Because that can't be.
what it is we have all changed.
Yeah.
So we've made it a situation where a guy like Glenn Beck becomes a monster of American television. 6 months later, without changing anything, he didn't say fuck in front of a C-H-I-L-D. He didn't do anything wrong. He didn't even use the N-word. Suddenly,
Gone.
catapulted downward, you know?
Yeah.
Why? Because of us. Now, if Oprah Winfrey came up today, you think she'd last more than 6 months or a year? Could she build an empire? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Let me ask you in our last 2 minutes here. You mentioned you're
I'm
working on
sorry, I don't have any time for this.
Yeah,
I have
all right,
to go.
okay.
Okay.
You're working on a book with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yes.
You got something in the works with Jim Nabors.
And Willie, yeah.
Okay, and Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Now, are these all books, or what are these?
These are
things?
books.
These are all books.
These are books, yeah.
And somebody told me this would take your writing in a different direction. Is that true?
Yeah, it will, because of Heroes of a Texas Childhood, which has done very, very well. A little book about 23 heroes of mine as a kid, and it's nonfiction. And I've really enjoyed writing this. I've always said there's a very fine line between fiction and nonfiction, and I believe Jimmy Buffett and I snorted it in 1973. But nonfiction has been a joy to write. I think there's more truth in fiction, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Good fiction, I think, tells the truth, and it tells it between the lines.
Yeah. Kinky, this has been great of you to do this. I want to
Well,
go buy
it's been
some
a
of your
pleasure.
cigars.
Shalom, buy them, and buy
Yeah,
the new
shalom.
tequila.
The new tequila, that's right.
Kinky Friedman's Man in Black Tequila coming out next month.
Excellent.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
Mexican mouthwash at its best.